I'm really excited after hearing the notes from everybody's groups. I think I can help you all out at least a little bit. Really what this presentation is a broader foundation. I know a lot of you are already talking about, how do we expand? How do we reach more customers? I'm gonna bet there's at least, 50 to 75% of these things that probably haven't been done yet in your operation. And all of this really contributes to establishing credibility, defining your identity, helping you find those perfect customers, those ideal customers for your operation. So while I may not answer all of your specific questions in the presentation, feel free to save those for the end. I got some of them written down here, so hopefully we'll get to those. But again, this is kind of might seem a little basic, but I hope this is something you can go back and do and put a little bit of time into, and it will really create the foundation for everything you need, whether you're just starting out or whether you're ready to scale. So this is the 31-day Jumpstart. If you're looking for a New Year's resolution, we've got it right here. We're going to start through the presentation, but there's a workbook that will be sent out to you to help you complete all of these tasks if you want to help guide you through those. And we're also going to do a couple of other fun things that I'll start as we get going here. So I think with that, we'll jump in here. You guys got to already hear a little bit about me. I started Ash Valley Designs this April, and it's something that's been in the works for a long time. I just had finally gotten enough clients. I kind of wanted to make it official, and mostly helping seed stock producers and farm to table farmers like you guys. So we're kind of all in the same world here. Ash Valley Designs, I really saw the need for affordable marketing solutions. There are a lot of marketing companies directed towards ag out there that can be very pricey, and you can add up a website and social media needs, and that adds up really fast. So I'm somewhere in between, helping you do it yourself and those higher priced items, but that's kind of the market I'm trying to serve, as far as helping with branding, website design, print design, and really overall strategic marketing. So Alex, I think there's an option. Do we have the option to raise your hand, or the reactions down at the bottom? I can't see them on mine.
Yes, people should be able to use their reactions. Or if they pull up their participants tab by hovering over that toolbar on the bottom, they can click participants and see some options to raise hand there. Yep.
Okay. So just to get a quick idea here real quick, if you do that, as Alex was saying, bring up your participants tab, and there was a reactions button. I think you can clap or wave or something like that. I have just a few questions that kind of helps me gauge how many people are where we're at in our path to marketing here. So who has social media? Who has an active Facebook page for their business? Raise your hand. Okay. Who has an active Instagram account? Raise your hand. Okay. And who has an active website? Raise your hand. Okay, good. I think we'll have something for everybody here, and I think we'll go ahead and get started. One thing I alluded to at the beginning is the workbook, and also the other exciting addition I threw into Alex and Connor here last week was establishing a Facebook group for all of you who are interested in keeping this going. I think we've got a really cool group here. We're all in the same world and having the same issues. I've started a Facebook group. I plan to walk us through these 31 steps in the group. kind of an accountability group for the next few weeks. So this is something I'd like to keep going and make sure to see you guys through and be there to help you as you need it. So I'll give you the link to the group at the end. But to keep it just to this group, I wanted to give you guys kind of a question to make sure I'm not letting in people that didn't attend this and don't know what we're talking about. So the main question I'm asking is, the matriarch of my herd was one that I got from my dad the first time I did all of his marketing. For this leading up to the sale, he paid me with a cow, and her name is Lucy, and she's still on the farm today. So that is the question to get into the group. Write that down. Her name is Lucy, and she's my favorite cow, and she'll be here as long as I can keep her. So with that, I think we'll dive in and write down your questions, or if there's an option, I'm happy to take questions as we go too. One of the reasons we're all here is, as I heard in the small groups, we're all competing with a whole lot of advertising. I think this is probably maybe doubled or tripled since quarantine, and we're all on Facebook and stuck at home. But 30 years ago, people did not see near as many advertisements from near as many people as they do today. Seeing as many as 5,000, probably closer to 10,000 a day at this rate. How do you stand out? What makes you different? This is why we're all here, I think. So the 31 steps are going to be divided into 3 different sections. First is really defining who you are. And I think as family operations or single person operations, it's really easy to kind of overlook this and be like, I know who I am. I know who I serve. I got this. Sometimes it is really worth taking a few minutes to dial this in and be really precise in who you're talking to and what you do. The next step, marketing is an everyday activity. You have to think about it. You might not have to take action that day, but you have to think about it every day. And it takes not just acting on it, but analyzing it and adjusting, just like every other part of your operation. It also takes planning ahead and having the data to make educated decisions, and knowing what got you here won't get you to the next part. So a few important things to help us as we go through here. This is really for the do-it-yourself marketer, kind of the weekend warrior. A lot of us probably have day jobs and stuff. So everything we're going to do today takes no more than 5 minutes a day and a cell phone or a laptop. So we can do this. The first step is identity. And the first thing I want you to do is sort of an online audit of your business. So if you Google your business, what comes up? I Googled mine there on the right. It was, the first page was all of my pages and my social media, everything I could see. You might have articles, you might have like a Manta business profile, you might have some obscure things or some other companies. Take a look at that and make a list of everything that's on that page, because you're going to want to come back to that. The next step is, if you're on social media, go ahead and start following your customers if they have business profiles, or business partners, anyone you work with, and not just follow those pages, but you're going to want to start liking and commenting as your page. Facebook hasn't always made that easy. It's easier to do from a desktop, but you can do it from your phone. We can, follow up with me later if you have specific questions. But engagement is the most important part of Facebook. So even if you don't have a business page, you can do it from your personal profile. Be sure you are engaging, not just with your friends, but in groups, on other business pages that are appropriate for your business. So make a list of people you do business with, customers, and make sure to interact with those on a regular basis. kind of worked that in with join groups. I'm in some marketing groups that, are based out of San Diego, so nothing related to agriculture, but I learn a lot from people outside of my world, and can apply that here to, the Midwest. I join like AI groups for artificial insemination. There's a lot of seed stock producers that are there. And again, wherever your customers are, that's a group you want to be in. If you're selling meat, your local buy-sell trade, or some local mom groups, if maybe you should be a parent or something, but anywhere your clients are, you want to be there. So explore groups. Facebook has made groups a really big priority lately. They're going to show you group news and group posts more often now than they used to. And those are going to be at the top of your feed. So if it's at the top of your feed, it'll be at the top of your client's feed. We're going to get into some of the basic things that we as a family never did. I'm guessing some of you, as your family operations started, have not done. These are really important. Write a paragraph about how you got started. I didn't ever know this about my family, but my grandpa was a horse guy from California, and he ended up in the Midwest due to the military service, fell in love with shorthorns, and after a few short years of raising shorthorns, he had won the state fair with some bulls and a pen of heifers. Talk about your history, write it down. Say, not just for your memories, but this is stuff to fall back on. When I shared this on our Facebook page, this picture and article, people commented, they loved it. Like, people want to know your story. They want to know where you came from. Even if your history is just a year old or 6 months old, write it down now, because that is important. A lot of you are selling beef and asking how to stand out. What problems do you solve, and why is your product the answer? Write down a couple of things that your product does differently, does better, and why your business, maybe why you as the business owner, make that different. Like your customer service, or your the way you raise the product. Those are the things that will separate you, and that's how you market your product to be different. We all have areas to improve. Let your customers know what your goals are. Where are we going? Are you looking for better marbling? Are you looking for more beef? Are you trying to expand? Are you moving to all grass-fed, or all, whichever direction you're going? If you're not there yet, that's okay. Every business has to advance. So what are you doing to improve? My dad and brother run the seed stock operation. And it wasn't until I think Dad was nominated for an award, and we all sat down as a family and started to go through these actual questions about what are we going to do? Like, where are we going, and what is our goal? And we all had different ideas of what that looked like. But in the end, we set out some really cool goals, very specific. We put numbers to it. We put deadlines to it. And now it's just really cool to see how that's all going to look in the next 1, 3, and 5 years. So the next part is, how do you do all of this with a customer that's passing by at a farmer's market? Or how do you do this online in a way that can be easily digestible? Having an elevator speech and being able to say what you do and how you do it in less than 30 seconds, in less than 5 sentences, really, really important. If you can't nail down your business and your plan in that amount of time, spend some time on that. So it's going to show you the template that I found, and I really like this. it basically gives you five things to say. What problem are you solving? What's your solution? Explain why people should trust you. Establish some sort of background for you, and describe the value you add. And then what do you want them to do? What action do you want them to take? So I thought this was, I included the link to where I found this, but thought this was a very cool example of an alpaca farmer. So you'll get all of this in the workbook, but an elevator pitch is so important. Even if you never say it out loud to a customer, it's really important for you guys to have that in your mind to fall back on and really help guide where you're going with this. Another really not fun one, but I promise it really gives you some clarity in helping decide how you market your business and who you're marketing to. A SWOT analysis. SWOT is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And so the top row, strengths and weaknesses, those are internal. That's stuff you control, what you're good at, what you're not good at, being really, really honest about both things. And then opportunities and threats, those are kind of external pressures and opportunities. So spend a few minutes on each one. And this is where you're going to decide what sets you apart. So this is something, it's not a fun one to do, but spend 5 minutes on this. This is something I would, I guess, do it my way is look at these things first thing in the morning, and kind of as you think about it throughout the day, you'll be surprised at what comes to you as you're feeding the cattle, or you know, a customer calls you about an opportunity or something. So this is something, open it up in the morning, look at it, think about it during the day, come back, write it down, and refer back to it. The next one, we're getting into maybe a little more fun stuff. One of my questions I forgot to ask, who has a logo and a defined brand? If I were to ask for your logo file today, how many people have that? Raise your hand. Okay, so that's awesome. We have 5 people raise their hand. This is something, 6. This is something, it can be really overwhelming. It can cost a lot. It can be a big investment. It doesn't have to be. If you don't want to have if you're a little bit unsure about what your brand is or what you want it to be, the only thing I will tell you is it has to be consistent. So on the right is what I call a brand board for Ash Valley Designs. Those are the colors I use. Those are the fonts I use. The 3 words below: approachable, simple, practical. That's what I want my business to be. I want to be transparent, and I want to be honest, and and I want to be, I'm not over the top. Pretty much what you see is what you get. So simple and practical worked for me. What describes your business? What's your style? These are things that don't cost a thing. You can decide that. You can decide your colors. Go pick a font. You can be in Word, and use that consistently. Once you pick a font and pick a color, you're good. You don't have to do any more than that. Consistency is worth a lot. So if you're not ready for an investment, your 5 minutes for this day is to go find a font and find a color, a few colors. And then one thing I did was you can use some stock photography. There's some websites offer free photography, and just kind of, what are some images? Mine's kind of rustic, kind of natural. Those are the things that I felt like described me. So find a few images that work for you, find those colors, and really define what your brand is. Okay, at the end of identity, what this is really getting to is defining our target audience. We all have a tendency to say that, well, everyone's our client, everyone's our potential customer. When you talk to everyone, you're really relating to no one. Drill down. Who is your specific customer? What do they look like? How old are they? What stage of life are they in? One way I like to ask customers is, well, what kind of vehicle do they drive? Are they driving a brand new GMC truck, or are they driving a Ford with a bale bed on the back? What kind of music do they listen to? Are they a Johnny Cash, George Strait country music kind, or are they maybe a Luke Bryan, Florida Georgia line? They're a little younger. Who is your target audience? It's okay to niche down and be really, really specific. When I'm talking a lot of times in my blog or on Facebook, I am talking to a cattle rancher, probably 40s to 50s male. Not to say that I don't work with a lot of females. Work with a lot of females outside of that, but you have to talk to a very specific person to relate to that. So don't be afraid to niche down and be very specific. And eventually you can add niches. You don't have to just have one. But this is something I think is hard for people to do, but it does pay off. Okay. The next few slides are really about adding credibility online and establishing your presence. So I know a lot of you have websites and social media. Raise your hand if you have a place on Google. Does anybody, when you Google yourself, does this map come up with your information? Oh, good. Okay. We've got like 5 or 6 people. So if Google can't find you, nobody can. It's a really simple task. I'm including a link of this with your workbook. There's a video to see how to do it. But you go to Google, you type in your address, you add your business, and Google's connected to Facebook, Instagram. Having all of these profiles gives you an online credibility with Google, and you will rank higher. What that means is if someone types local beef near me, you will rank higher if you have a complete profile, if you have other links such as a website or Facebook that back you up and say, yes, this is real. So this is so important, really easy. It doesn't take 5 minutes. It takes like 2.5. So, or I think as Eric said before we started, how was that, Eric? If you only leave something to the last minute, it only takes a minute. So that's how this can be for a lot of these. But this is, if I have you do anything out of all of these tasks, this is number 1 on my list. Back to the very first, your online audit, when you Google yourself, make sure everything that comes up on that is accurate. Go back to that list and make sure all of your phone numbers, your email addresses, hours, location, all of those things are accurate. Right now, especially during COVID, when you're trying to decide if a restaurant's open or what the hours are for a store, it's really frustrating. If you think our local farm store is open until 8 and they actually closed at 7. So go back, make sure all of that's accurate, and again, just contributes to your credibility as you go. A really easy and free way to get more links to your website, more email signups, more likes on your social media. Create an email signature that's consistent. Mine has a picture of me. It has a link to every social media profile I have, whether it's very active or not. It has a link to my website, my cell phone number. It is stacked. So there is no reason somebody can't find out more about me if they want to. So if in doubt, put it in your email signature. And Wise Stamp is a really cool service. It works across, I think, almost every email service. It creates a really professional looking signature that's copy and pasted into your email. And I just click to have it send on every single email. It's free. It just makes you look like you really know what you're doing. So check that out. Having a set of photos you can fall back on. We all know social media really loves videos and photography or photos with your posts. They've gotten away. They don't really like just plain text posts. They don't really like links in the post, but pictures and videos are always going to be priority. So if you're not a photographer, there's a few options, unsplash.com and pexels.com. And these are three pictures I found. I was trying to put together some options for my clients for National Farmer Day, which was maybe a month or so ago. And you can add writing over the top of it, just to include it with your post as is, crop it differently, but these are free for you to use. You can go find, farming is a little limited on these, but get creative. Sometimes there's some good meat pictures. There's, just some nature pictures. Get creative with it. Find your Christmas pictures for the holidays, or your, Valentine's Day pictures, Mother's Day, and just have something. These are a great resource to have something accompany that post. Using photos you have is even better. I was going to share a quick example. Get a really good photo app. I use one called Snapseed, and I'll link to that in the workbook too. It has about every option that Photoshop does on your phone. A lot of really good adjustments to make. This is one. First thing I always do, especially on black animals, change your shadows, reduce your shadows. So black animals are really hard. You can't usually see their faces or eyes. And then I like a warmer look. So I usually play with the coloring, lighting, and this one I should have cropped a little better, but you can take a kind of bleh picture and make it look a lot better with just a few, this was less than a minute worth of adjustments. So get a photo app, whatever one you're comfortable with. I like Snapseed because you can add text over the top of it. It has some cool filters, and a really easy way to make posts look just a little bit better. Next part is video. And this is something I'm not great at. I don't love video, but it's something I have an interest in. I don't want to do videos of me, but I want to do more videos of my clients or of my cattle. Phone is always good. For those of you who are advanced or want to be learn a lot more about photography and videography, I will have you check out borrowlenses.com. If you don't have a camera or a video camera, if you don't have all the lenses, you can rent all of that for a very small amount, a small investment compared to buying equipment. So usually around sale video day in January, when we're picturing bulls, I will go check out a new lens or a new video camera just to see if there's something I like, something that's worth investing in. I can rent it for a week for $100 or $150 and send it back. And it's a great option for people who don't know what equipment they like, or what lens they would buy, or what camera body or brand they would go with. Go try a few out and see what you like before doing the investment. Getting into some social media and getting that planning. I was hearing a lot about how do you make a consistent message and how do you keep the momentum going. There are a lot of options out there as far as online planning. I think one is called Later. There's one called Hootsuite that I used to use. I don't use anything now except for just an Excel spreadsheet. And I can show that to you. This is not pretty, and this is not something I give out, but I will show you. And if you really want it, I can send it to you, but it's not pretty. So this is one I did for a farm to table business I help. And this takes a little of explaining how I do this. So we split it up into, this is posts for about a month. Talking about current affairs, what's going on in the world today that they can apply, that they can speak to. Education, they raise lamb and beef. So there's a little bit of educating that can go along with that. Candid photos, and then actual promoting products. So in each of those categories, I kind of break it down into what are the topics that we can cover. And you can see those here. And then go a step further. And while you're planning this, what are your resources? Where can you get good educational topics? And where can you get good, ideas for candid photos or current affair type stuff? So Primals is their processing plant that has really good information. Always your state councils, or I'm sure Land Stewardship Project has some great resources. Refer back to those. Go ahead and list it and get some ideas on paper. So when you're struggling to get that post that should go up today, refer back to this and you'll have some built-in inspiration. So then in the next part, I have their business is called Quail Meadow Farms. So just some broad company-wide topics, and then get specific. How do each of those things apply to your beef or ground beef and your lamb? And what other, they sell snack sticks and dog treats and t-shirts. So how can you make posts that apply to each of those topics and tie in your product? So, there's a lot in here. You don't have to fill this all in, but get some ideas going, get it on paper. And then when you go to fill out a weekly plan, you can kind of start filling in the blanks. If you think you want a couple of candid pictures or videos each week, throw in an educational and then throw in at least one promotion. Do you need photo, video, graphic, or text to go with that? And up here, for the week, you can focus on one product, focus on a certain theme, and kind of give it some purpose. And so when you're, give it some strategy. So when you look at the overall month, it makes sense. And your customers are going to be getting kind of a healthy dose of everything you do with a specific intent to it. Okay. Facebook can be overwhelming, and it's hard to come up with ideas constantly. I find scheduling posts helps me a lot. If you're doing that template, go ahead and get some of those plugged in throughout the month, so you don't have to come back and think about it every single day about what you're going to post. Use a scheduling tool. That's back what I said. Hootsuite, one called Later. Those will help you get those scheduled if you don't like the Facebook scheduler. On my link and in the group, there'll be a video for those of you who aren't sure how to schedule a post. I have a how-to video to do that. So we'll be able to refer back to that if you have questions. A couple of things I like to do right off the bat for social media. Once a month, introduce yourself. Introduce your business, add a cute anecdote or something interesting or a personal experience, or ask a question to your customers. Give them something that gets to know you. They want to know you. These are by far always my most highly engaged posts. People want to know you, and this gives them a little glimpse. It also reintroduces you for new followers that you have every month. And it just, being a real person is really important to, um, especially in this pandemic and social media. We kind of forget that there are real people behind all of this. So this is my husband and our dog. And one thing I really like to do is take a picture with a blank poster board or a blank piece of paper or a blank chalkboard. So, I could go on this. This isn't a Christmas picture, but I could go on and write over the top of that, Merry Christmas, or check out our auto insurance rates or something for him. You can get creative and reuse these posts. A blank picture gives you kind of the freedom to do a lot with a picture you've used. My picture back at the beginning where it says "We'll work for cows." This is what I did, and I can make that say anything I want. Another post you can automatically count on at least weekly or monthly is sharing an article. Education, you don't have to always be the expert. Share some tidbit of education that you got from another group you follow, and don't just share the link. Tag the source. So if it's Land Stewardship Project, tag them in it. Actually pull a quote and what you found interesting out of that article and put that in the body of the post. People all the time are sharing links, and I never click on them because I don't know what they're actually, wanting me to get out of that. I don't like just reading headlines and moving on. So if you actually tell me what I should see out of this and what's interesting to you, I might actually click on it. So give it a little bit more personalization and a little more depth when you do that. I'm really big on tagging other people in my posts. Tag a business partner, tag a customer, someone who's helped you go above and beyond in your business. So again, another post you can immediately cross off every month. Give somebody kind of a shout out, help them. The more good you put into Facebook, the more good you will get out of it. So put a lot of good into Facebook and help others, and it will help you. It'll come back to you. The next one I say with all the caution in the world, because this is not something I strongly suggest investing in full time. What I mean, explore social advertising. If you haven't ever done a Facebook ad, you have the option on every post to boost a post. Go through that process. It's awesome. What Facebook has done is given you the ability to make decisions that, multi-million-dollar companies had the options, but people like us have never had this option and this depth to choose who we're talking to and control our message. So it's a great exercise to go through to make you really consider, what is your goal for this post? What is your goal for this message? What are you trying to accomplish? And then who is this targeted to? Back to that niche. Who exactly are you talking to? Because you can nail down to a ridiculously specific degree of audience on Facebook. And then, there is another part of that. Really drill down, I guess, your message and be specific on what that message is. And it's a very inexpensive. You can spend $1 on it. You can spend $5 on it. Either way, it's a really good exercise for you to thoughtfully put together an ad for your business. If you do it any more than $5, please spend some time researching this or hiring somebody, because you will be wasting money if you don't really know what you're doing. So that's why I'm advising take extreme caution with this, but it is a good exercise. So going straight into my next one, Google that marketing question. Even before you reach out to somebody like me, or even though I'm most happy to help. There are tons of great blogs, great podcasts to listen to, great articles to read. I'm including 3 in the list in the workbook. One is a small business website guy who his name is Wes Mcdowell. He talks about everything from email marketing to Google Ads to your website. He's phenomenal in giving you very specific, actionable items. He can be really basic and he can be advanced. So stick with him and listen to a few of his podcasts. They are worth it. The best advice you can get for free. Another one is Amanda Horvath. I always have to think about her last name. She's a video specialist and she does really good tutorials for people who are interested in doing video for their business and doing it yourself. So what equipment to use, how to work with lighting, how to write scripts. She really brings it down to a level we can all get on. And then there's a branding expert I follow. Her name is Michelle Winterstein. All branding questions, all of your imaging, your messaging, she's great for. So again, all of those are included in the workbook to research for you to look back on.
Hey, Kristen, really quick, what was the name of that podcaster again?
Wes Mcdowell.
Wes McDowell. All right, great. And that'll be in the workbook, you said.
Yes, it is.
Great.
They'll also have Facebook and Instagram that they put a lot of great information on. And sometimes I'm just amazed at how much free they offer. So I'm also one that I sign up for all these free webinars and stuff because I love, people are giving you free advice, hoping you then hire them for their services. But in the meantime, you get some really good advice. So sign up for those, get on their email lists. They get annoying, but you will learn a lot. Moving on to the next one, reach out to a customer. My dad, I feel bad. He is always so nervous of getting bad feedback. He hates to reach out to customers. He thinks like he's almost scared of it. And I think, that's something we all fear is getting bad feedback. Well, that meat wasn't quite as tender as I thought it would be, or you were a little pricey, or something like that. But how can you make adjustments and how can you move forward if you don't know what that feedback is? And I'm guessing most of it is not negative. So get used to it, reach out to somebody you haven't talked to in a while, and try to make a habit of reconnecting with not only customers, but prospects and people that you haven't actually sold to yet, but you want to, and you want to reach back out and get over that hurdle with them. Okay. Our last set here, let's see how we're doing on time. Okay. Getting into more of planning and how are you going to start putting all of these things into place. One of the first things I did this year, my local or our state Shorthorn Association has an annual meeting every year. And I knew that this is really my target market. These are seed stock producers. These are people that they know me or they know of me. And they're all trying to advance their cattle, advance their marketing, and sell some cattle. So I knew if I had a chance to speak to them, this is really the perfect group for me to start before I launched Ash Valley Designs. So that was actually the first group to kind of get the first version of this Jumpstart group. This is something I volunteer for. I volunteer to do all of their website and marketing, and it pays back. Not only is it a group that I've spent, it helped raise me. I grew up with these people, and it feels really good to give back, and it feels really good to take them to a new level. So I guess what I'm saying is find something, a cause that's close to your heart, and find a way to kind of give back, and bonus points if they're also your target market. So I think this is really important. I know a lot of you are probably involved in a ton of local groups, your 4-H groups, or your community groups, but maybe kind of go out of your way to really do something good for that group, or find a new group, even better. For those of you who are not comfortable online, I'm hoping I'm throwing in some offline options here. Handwritten thank yous, handwritten notes, personal thank yous, or visits for coffee never go out of style. Reach out to somebody who you haven't talked to in a while and just say hi and say thank you. It's something we could all do more of, and again, putting more good into the world and it'll come back to you. I was really excited in our small groups. We already had somebody asking about email signups and how do I do mass email or email marketing. You would not believe how simple they have made it. This is something I can follow up more on, but it can be free, and it can be as easy as writing in a Word document, and you don't have to have a website. You don't have to have social media. You just have to capture those email addresses. So when you're on the phone with somebody, when you're on Facebook or whatever, get email addresses. That's really important. Facebook, as we all know, is starting to be really, it starts to really discount our reach. Where we used to be able to reach 90 or 100% of our followers, we might only reach 25% of our followers now with a post. How do we combat that? We control our list and we control our messaging, and we do that through email signups and having an email program. So this is another one of those very top things on my list. If you do nothing else, look into email signups, even if you're just sending it from your own personal account. Find a way to contact people, to get contacts of people that you're talking to. Really, really important. Start asking for testimonials. Again, something that's really hard to do. We don't do it enough with our cattle operation, but I put it for Ash Valley Designs. It's on my website. It's on my invoices. I send out surveys. It's in my emails, and I do it in social media. Give people the option to talk about you. And of course, ask them if you can use it. But it's so important in a day where, 15 people in your local area are selling beef at the farmer's market. What sets you apart? Proven testimonials, proven customers that can back you up is what will set you apart. This goes back to just participating in Facebook groups and participating online. If you're not on Facebook, there's a lot of ag groups. I'm going to blank on them right now. Ag Talk. I was trying to think of the one my father-in-law is on. My father-in-law is not computer savvy at all, but he can get on Ag Talk and talk with the best of them about cattle, about equipment, and he can find us any answer we're looking for when it comes to those things. Find some groups. I don't know if Ag Talk is a nationwide thing or if that's kind of a Kansas and surrounding area, but find some groups of people like you on the internet and participate. They'll see your name, they'll research you, it'll come back to you. So that's spend a few minutes a day just looking through that and being involved. Okay, we're getting pretty close here to the end. Now that we're getting towards the end of the 30 days, really study your analytics and what it's called insights on Facebook. Facebook, again, has brought amazing technology to those of us that are marketing ourselves that has never been available before. We can tell who's looking at our posts, who's liking, where they're coming from, what their interests are. And, we can compare that from this month to last year. And what does that tell us? Really spend some time where is your traffic coming from? What types of posts are most popular? What's not popular? What do you need to do less of? And track that. Every month I send my website clients Google Analytics on their website. And I know a lot of them aren't analytic junkies, but I am. And I will break that down because we need to know what we need to change about a website. Website is never done. You have to be evolving, you have to be changing to keep relevant information in front of your customers. So constantly be looking at analytics and what you can do better, and where you need to move. It will tell you things. You will learn a lot from looking at analytics once a month. Establish a marketing budget. Doesn't, when I Google what is a marketing budget, how much is a marketing budget, it said 5 to 10% of your revenue. Sounds like a lot for some of us. But start somewhere. If that includes, advertising in a local newspaper, if that includes advertising in a association magazine or some Facebook advertising, budget in. If it's $5 a month, or can you do $500 a year on one big ad? Start somewhere. Give yourself a little bit of room to work, and then make adjustments. What you do this year, you may not do next year, but you won't know until you do it. So start somewhere, be flexible, and just get started. Lastly, you plan your next 30 days. Look back on all of these 31 things. What worked for you? Where are you seeing results? They say it takes 7 touches for somebody from the time they see you and take in your messages to the time they take action. How are you reaching them? How are you going to reach them? And what does that message look like? What does it need to be? So for the next 30 days, where are you going to spend your time focusing? There's, again, a lot of planners out there. There's some apps. I use a notebook. My notebook is sitting next to me. It's an agenda or like a calendar, and it's just stuffed with papers of ideas that I have. And it goes with me everywhere. And when I have new ideas, I write them down. And the first thing I did when I started like my Facebook page, I wrote down a list of all of the options of types of posts I could have. Motivational quotes or educational quotes, project features, blogs, photos, tips, holiday posts, articles, how-to videos. Write those things down. So when you're looking for inspiration, you're needing to pull something, you can pull from that list and start at least down a path. You're not every month looking for something new. So get your list or get a fancy app, whatever works for you, and start planning. Okay, so for those of you who some of these are a little too basic, or you're ready for something new, logo design is something that a few of you had. Some branding already done. Again, not something you have to spend a fortune on. There's a lot of options that are cheaper. There's personal designers that will work with you on some pricing. But if you don't feel comfortable deciding that font and that color and sticking with that, talk to somebody about establishing a brand and really giving you the identity that you need. Consistency in branding. So they know when they see you at a farmer's market, to they know when they see you in an ad in the newspaper, to they know when they see you on social media. All of your stuff looks the same, and they don't have to think twice about, is that the guy that I saw? Or, I can't remember the name, but that looks familiar. That sort of thing. Branding is a good investment. A website and Google Analytics. don't have a website if you're not going to analyze it and make changes. Websites can be very cheap. They can be very expensive. You can do it yourself. There's some really good options. Squarespace and Weebly is kind of a cheaper option for those on a budget. Wix is a budget-friendly option, but it requires a little bit extra work as far as customizing. For those of you actually selling products, Shopify is one that I have experience with, but it's a little bit pricey, but it does very powerful. So lots of options and some do-it-yourself, some that you can work with designers on. So that would be another good next step. Funnel marketing. This has become a really popular term, and this is to describe it. It's say if I were to offer this webinar for free on my website, you just have to give me your email address. So you sign up, you give me your email address, you get the webinar. Now I know that you're a potential customer of mine because you're interested in, marketing yourself. You probably have an ag background or an ag business of some kind, and you're willing to put in a little bit of effort and have some skin in the game by signing up for this. So I already know you're an ideal customer. So then I start emailing you and I send you relevant information and kind of warm you up to get to a bigger investment. So you can do this, for example, offering a discount code. Sign up, give me your email address, I'll give you a discount code. So you know somebody wants your product, wants to try your product. Now you have their email address. Now you can continue to send them information on products they might like, recipes they might like. It gives you kind of a funnel to start narrowing down those ideal customers. And you don't have to talk to everybody. You're talking to people who you know are interested in your product. There's a lot of podcasts on this. Wes Mcdowell has some good ones. So if you're interested in the psychology behind this, very worthwhile if you have the time and effort to do this. For those of you in Facebook too, but Instagram, having a hashtag strategy, a defined strategy, will help you so much more than just repeating the same hashtags or not doing the research on it. So I actually was kind of anti-Instagram before I started my business. I've gotten more business from Instagram than I have for Facebook. And a lot of your customers are probably also a lot of my customers. So they're on Instagram. And again, having an Instagram account also adds to that credibility that Facebook and Google are looking for. So if you're going to do Instagram, get on it and then really research some hashtag strategy, because having that done right can be worth a lot to you. If you have a website, doing some what is called SEO, search engine optimization. This helps Google and other search engines rank your website and send people there who are actually looking for you. So if they're looking for beef near me, optimizing your website copy, the content of your website so that Google knows exactly what you do is really important. And there's kind of an art to it and something that requires some time. It requires some constant work, but search engine optimization is a really important part of your strategy, overall marketing strategy. And again, email marketing. If you can't tell, my face lights up when we talk about email marketing because it's so important. And controlling your message and controlling your audience is so valuable. And I'm sure we don't even know how valuable that is yet, as Facebook and Instagram continue to put on more regulations or continue to use their what's the algorithms to tell people what they should be seeing. So email marketing, so important. I should move this to the top of the slide because this is important. With that, I think I'm about ready for questions. This is the link to my website. If you do ashvalleydesigns.com/LSP, you will get all of the resources today, including the workbook, some of the how-to videos, a couple of other things, but it's all there. Then please come join us on our Facebook group. I think we'd have a lot of fun. I think we'll get a lot accomplished, and I'll be on there. I hope it's interactive and we can all stay in touch and help each other out. I'll be there to provide any support that I can and get through these 31 days and start 2021 off with a bang. So these links will be, the Facebook group is linked on my LSP page on my website. So if you at least get to ashvalleydesigns.com/LSP, you can get to the rest of it. And with that, Connor and Alex, questions or anything specific I need to answer before we get there?
Well, before we transition to question and answer, if you want to do a reaction, applause, or unmute and just thank Kristen, that was excellent, Kristen. And the extra work that you've put into providing this opportunity for folks to get on a Facebook event together and have the workbook available to them is just exceptional. So just want to thank you so much for that. If you want to take off screen share, we'll go back into that gallery view. And then we're doing great on time. We're actually a little bit early, so we might have some time for extra questions before we take a break. And the way the question and answer session is going to work, I've already saved questions people have been putting in the chat, and I'll lift those up. But if you would like to ask your question verbally, then just type the word stack into the chat like I just did, and we'll keep track of the order that people are stacking, and we'll call on you to unmute so you can ask the question the way you want to ask it. If you are not comfortable with that or don't have use of your audio and would like me or Connor to lift up your question, just go ahead and type the entire question out into the chat and we'll do that. So I got a few right now that I can read that folks were already putting in there. And the first one was, when does it become worthwhile to trademark your name?
So that's one. I haven't trademarked any names for anyone. There's some investment there. I would say if your name is really similar to some others, either small businesses or something larger, I would say that's something to look into. If it's a truly unique name and truly unique art and everything, not something I would probably invest in until you just get quite a bit bigger. And I guess that's it. I don't have a ton of experience with it, but it is not high on my recommendations for people in small business at this time.
Great. We had a question, what if our customers are truly all over the place currently? For example, if you have other local farmers who buy from you, suburban moms, or even urban vegans, even those urban vegans are buying.
Okay, that's great. That's a great problem to have, not a problem, but that's a great issue. So what I would recommend is when we were talking about that ideal customer, make up, those 3 different ideal customers. Make one that's the urban vegan who doesn't know anything about farming or GMOs or anything like that. Make up and where do they live? What are their interests? And where do they hang out online? Where do they hang out in person? do that for each segment. Don't try to lump them all together, and don't try to talk to them all together. They're all going to receive messaging very differently. So really continue to niche down, but do them separately is how I would recommend that.
What is the typical cost of a website and Facebook development assistance? I had one farmer reach out to me the other day and said someone was going to charge him $3,000 to $4,000 to set up a website. Can you speak to that a little bit more?
Yeah. So I did a Shopify website for Quail Meadow Farms, which was my first farm to table. They had gotten a quote previously, and I think their quote was for about $10,000 to set up an online account, or to set up the store completely. To me, that just seemed really steep. If you want a fully customizable, never been done before, totally unique to you website, and can't stray from that, $10,000 is probably where you're going to be. If you can, bring your expectations down to, a very customizable template, something that's your branding and your colors and your style, but it fits in, it's something, a lot of these websites, Squarespace, Shopify, they use templates. Those templates can be free or you can pay a little bit for them. And, I've seen templates on Etsy or Creative Market for $50 on up. And then the designer can customize those for you. Websites for me, I charge kind of per page, and typically my websites are less than $1,000. I use Wix, which allows for a lot more customization, but keeps the overall cost down both for you and me as far as yearly subscriptions and the overall development of that. So I would say, base price. Well, so how I got this, got connected to Alex and LSP was through, I guess I used him in my presentation, so I'm going to give him a shout out. Zach Knudsen in Minnesota. He's part of a shorthorn group that I'm in. And he wanted just a basic, I think he got a grant for $500. And that was his budget. He couldn't go over that. And he wanted just a little bit left over for some photography and some other expenses. So a very basic 2-page website. You can't buy anything on the website, but you get all the information you need. And we were able to do that for about $400. So that's about as cheap as we can go. And it can go up from there.
Great. And what about the Facebook development assistance? Do you know about that?
Yeah. So I don't know how a lot of people, other people do it, but I do some hourly rates. You can buy 3 hours with me for $100. A typical website or Facebook development shouldn't probably take more than that. And you can get some with that, probably customizing like your profile and your cover photos. And if you don't already have branding, I will probably recommend that we add a little bit of work into branding and defining that for you. So probably starting at about $100 and up from there.
Great. And I'll just lift up that Dana in the chat said, we ask all our customers how they heard about us on their order form. We were going to spend time and money on a website overhaul and then realized hardly anyone interacted with our website before ordering. So kind of tips and tricks people are putting into the chat box for one another.
Good kudos for you for finding that out and making that effort. Find out what your customers think always first.
Nice. Kristen, we had a question. Do you have a favorite hashtag generator, or should producer marketers identify the best hashtags to use themselves?
I haven't used generators. I try and kind of segment out my posts. So whether it's about a website, or whether it's about branding, or whether it's about cattle. And then finding hashtags relevant to that. So kind of like my social media planner, there's some segments and some crossroads where that, I can pull my website hashtags and combine those with my cattle hashtags for that specific project. And it's kind of just spending some time to define hashtags for each segment of your business, and then combining those for each specific post, if that makes sense. So when I work for an Angus breeder, there's some specific Angus hashtags that I'll use. And then if there's, a website or branding, I try and use some of those combined with my own Ash Valley Designs or livestock marketing kind of hashtags. So I look at a lot of other hashtags. I don't use a generator, but I'm constantly just, I need to add that one to my list, or exploring those on my own.
There's a nitty-gritty question then into hashtags. Do we put hashtags in the original post or an additional comment?
It used to be original post. Now everyone does it in the comments. I did some looking into that quite a while ago. I can't really remember the difference in that right off the top of my head. But it has become more common practice to put that in the comment. Also, to note on that, and I think this has something to do with putting it in the comment, you don't want to use the same hashtags over and over and over again. Instagram thinks you're trying to, they're accusing us of not being creative. So they want you to put some thought into those. And I think that's part of the reason that you keep those out of the comment. So that comment is original, and then the original comment, and then using those hashtags later to kind of filter down the audience you're looking for.
We have someone who asked about coming from a small area. How do we get past feeling bad about bragging up our business without putting down other local competitors? We're all pretty friendly, and it's tough to sometimes, I think, do that marketing for yourself. So any strategies or tips for that?
It is. And it's something I think agriculture people in general have a really tough time talking about the things we do well. I think my dad hates it when I brag about him on Facebook amongst his peers. And, I think the only thing we can do is be very kind and, definitely lift others up in our posts. And, I'm not saying lift your competitors up, but make sure you're putting the spotlight or sharing some of the spotlight, I guess. And, when I'm really bragging about something on my dad's herd, I try and tag the association and the good things they're doing, and highlight, why this is good on a whole. So, it kind of comes back to your values. One thing I didn't really hit on as much, but when you're defining your identity and, what are your core values, maybe kind of supporting your local economy or supporting local businesses. I'll switch stories here. There's a food truck that comes to my tiny town of 100 because we don't have a restaurant. And they are constantly shouting out to all of the restaurants in the area for all the places they go. They share their specials. They share, these are great people. Go visit them. I think there's they are over the top, friendly and kind, and it comes back to them. So I think finding that line between being, letting people know how great your product is and why that's good for, the local economy or why that's good for your neighbors. I think it's a fine line to walk, but people probably, they're on your business page. They're expecting you to tell you to, they're expecting you to tell them the good things about your business. So try not to let that impede what you're saying, because people, they're there to find out why you, and you need to tell them why you. Just give them a chance to lift some others up while you're doing it.
Any thoughts about text-based marketing as inboxes continue to just get more and more cluttered these days?
I have done some text marketing that it's still kind of an unexplored world, I think, and it might be something that continues to blow up. I have a hard time with it because personally I hate it. I hate when companies text me. Something, and a generational thing, it might be something we really need to look at, especially as, if your customers are 20s, maybe early 30s, that might be their preferred communication. So I think definitely when you're signing people up for email addresses or getting their information at a farmer's market or something, ask them if text, is your preferred contact text. And if you're getting some, that way, it might be worth looking into. It's probably something you can do on a small basis without a service. So kind of juggle, if it's 10, 15, 20 people, do it yourself and keep the costs down. If you're getting, if your list is huge and they're okay with you texting, add it to your list and see where it goes. If you're getting a lot of people opting in, definitely explore that. And I don't have a recommendation on services for that. I've looked at a lot and it's not one I've pulled a trigger on for anyone. So I don't have any recommendations for that, but I'd be interested in exploring that again if somebody has some ideas there. So.
How often should we use email to existing customers?
Don't overuse it. Selling meat and produce, I think you can get away very easily with at least once a month. Try to limit it. I have one client who wanted to send out a newsletter every month, I think. And to me, that's, we don't care. We don't necessarily care about the new piece of equipment you got or the what's going on the farm. What we care about is there a discount? Is there a new product? Has something changed in the way we order or in the way we find you? So try to limit your emails to those types of things. So when people get an email from you, they know it's important and they know it's worthwhile. So email newsletters did used to be a big thing. and back at my very first job, I remember sending monthly newsletters as well. It's just evolved so much and we get so many emails. If I get one or two emails from you that aren't relevant, I'm probably going to stop opening the rest of them. So keep them very relevant, keep them very value added. Give me something, give me a recipe or, a discount somewhere or some tidbit of information I can use, and I'll keep opening them.
Awesome. And Leslie offered too that she could see where texting could be supplemental to email communication, such as order reminders or pickup reminders.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, good idea.
Another question, any recommendations on best frequency for social media posts to keep customers engaged?
As many times as people keep engaging. It's different for everybody. And it's different for, just the content of your posts. Leslie has some awesome Instagram videos and stuff that It looks like she gets great engagement and giving kind of her day to day. My strategy is a little bit more, when I have something of value, I'll send it to you, or I'll give it to you. Um, as long as your engagement doesn't drop. And so when you're putting a post up, you want to be reaching, a significant number of your followers. So if you have 500 followers and you're only reaching 50 people, you need to reevaluate your posts and what you're giving them, and make sure you're giving them something to click on. Make sure you're giving them something to respond to, and something to read further. Each click or each extra time they spend on that post is engagement for you, and that means further reach for your post. So I think if you do 1 or 2 posts a week that are getting high engagement, you're good. You don't need to do more than that. Don't stress. Don't try and fill time. Don't try to make filler posts. Focus on getting 1 or 2 good quality posts a week. And, if you see good engagement with 3 to 5, 7 posts a week, that's great. Just don't let your engagement slack in trade of that. So.
We had someone on here who used MailChimp in the past, but hasn't really come back to it, and is wondering about how to, if you have tips for quicker and easier ways for staying disciplined about email.
MailChimp was actually my suggestion for those who are looking for an inexpensive email service. MailChimp is free. It also means you sacrifice a little bit in engagement. So when you send an email from MailChimp, it may end up in somebody's junk or spam. To be honest, that doesn't concern me a ton. You're still reaching a good number of people. I still get 20 to 30% open rates, which may not sound like a lot, but that's above industry average, especially in the ag and beyond. A lot of industries, hotel and restaurant, it's far less than that. So don't get discouraged. I think the things, when I tell my dad that, oh, we got 30% open rate on this, he's like, that's it? Don't get discouraged by that. People get a ton of emails, and we can't expect them to open them all. So keep at it. There are some techniques to engage people, again, some re-engagement. Again, Wes Mcdowell spends a lot of time on his podcasts on email, and there's a lot of ways to optimize your subject lines and the times that you send them, the content. So MailChimp, I think, is a good option. There are paid services. Constant Contact is one of them. There's some new kind of boutique email services is what they call them. I haven't used those, but if you're willing to spend a little bit more money, you can be sure you get out of the junk boxes and make sure that people see you. Again, those just require a little bit more investment. So I guess I would further that question with, are you discouraged because of response rates, or are you discouraged because it's hard to come up with content? Because those things are hard. And that goes back to, maybe sitting down for an hour one day and just planning out a series of emails. But those are some things if you want to get specific, I can come back to that.
Great. And we had Rochelle lift up that she's found her customers do want her emails. So she sends bi-monthly emails to buying customers. That includes, like you had said, recipes, tips, tricks, value-added things in there. Sounds like that's working well for her.
For those of you selling produce, people love recipes. Those Facebook posts, those as emails, those are very successful. So, really consider that. Homemade recipes you find on the internet. within reason that you're not stealing something, but you're, something you can share. Definitely use that, because that people love recipes. They love tips for picking cuts of meat or types of meat, what the different grades or things like that. So yeah, those are great ideas, and use that as a resource.
We have a couple people who have raised hands. I'm just wondering if those are from earlier or if you are raising your hand to ask a question. So we have Sue and Kate. I'll pause for a moment in case you want to unmute and ask. Oh, okay, no raised hands. Awesome. Well, we're a little early on time, so just going to leave a space here if folks still want to raise questions with Kristen. You can type those out in the chat, or you can unmute and ask. Awesome. Otherwise, I'll just say another big thank you and pass it over to Connor for some LSP announcements before we head into a short break for the evening.
All right. If you guys are looking for some more direct marketing information, we do have another upcoming workshop this Thursday, December 10th. The title is How to Acquire and Keep an Online Customer. The presenters will be Brooks and Blaine Hitzfield from Seven Sons Farm in Indiana, as well as the farm panelist will be TC Farm, just outside the Twin Cities, and that's Jack McCann and Ian Rhodes for those. So check out the LSP website, click on the upcoming events tab to find out more information for those. I know some of you have already registered for that workshop too, so wanted to also talk a little bit about the Soil Builders Network that Land Stewardship Project has. If you're looking to get more regular updates on all things soil health related, whether that's upcoming workshops or field days or articles, outreach materials, you can join our free Soil Builders Network, and that's also found on the Land Stewardship Project website. Just click on the Soil Builders tab for that. And moving on, we'll pass it over to one of our members who farms at Wazupi Tribal Gardens. Liana Nichols is gonna talk real briefly about being a member at Land Stewardship Project.
Cool. Can you hear me okay?
A little soft, but okay. Yeah, we can hear you.
That's a little better.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, so Alex and Connor asked me if I would speak for a second on why I'm an LSP member and why I would encourage others who maybe aren't yet members to consider joining. And when I thought about it, I guess it comes down to two main things on why I'm a member. And the first thing is I care a lot about rural land and livelihoods, and that's from the perspective of someone, an eater. I like to think I'm a informed eater in a lot of ways, and from the perspective of a farmer as well. And the second reason is that I see a lot of power and value in learning from other farmers and the bottom-up approach that LSP takes. And that's different from the approach that a lot of other extension and other organizations sometimes take when they offer field days. And I've had a chance to be a part of a lot of LSP field days and workshops, pasture walks, and now in the COVID era, a couple of webinars. And yeah, I've just appreciated the chance to network with other people, learn from other people's mistakes, and hopefully collectively build on everybody's successes so that we can all push the envelope a little further on what's possible. And I guess currently with the farm I'm working on now, I've really appreciated the compost check-in calls. There's a LSP group that is talking about different compost systems, including a static aerobic compost system that I'm hoping to implement on the farm where I'm working now. And just there's a lot of value in hearing what other people are doing and not having to start from scratch on things like that. So I guess if you already are an LSP member, I'm happy that other people are supporting the work that LSP has been doing. They've been doing a great job facilitating these sorts of networking opportunities. And if you're not a member, I would encourage you to consider becoming a member. And I think Connor and or Alex are going to put a link in the chat with, yeah, there it goes. So it's a way that you can click and become a member online. Yeah, that's it.
Thanks, Liana. Yep, Alex put a link in the chat for the page on our website. And so now we're gonna actually move on to a 10-minute break. So take care of your needs, go to the bathroom, get something to drink, and we're gonna come back at 7:15, and you'll hear Leslie present on some of her experience direct marketing pasture raised goat meat to wholesale accounts as well as individual buyers. So we'll see everyone back at 7:15.
Ready to get started again, Connor?
Yeah, sounds good. Dana also had a question in the chat. Will the recording be available to folks who didn't register? I think, Alex, we talked about at least initially just sending it out to people who did register, but in the future, making it available publicly.
Yep, we had a number of folks reach out who said they really wanted this content, but for a variety of reasons couldn't get it. So down the road, we'll have a plan to make it public to folks. Appreciate the question.
All right, it's after 7:15. I think we'll go ahead and get started again. Welcome back, everyone. I'll just jump into introducing Leslie, our next presenter. Leslie runs Cylon Rolling Acres in western Wisconsin, where she raises meat goats on pasture. She's built up a dynamic direct marketing business and shares her passion and introduces people to goats through various social media and other outlets. And just recently has started utilizing an e-commerce website as well for customers to easily order meat online and to be picked up either at the farm or shipped to their door. So we're excited to have Leslie here and present with us. So welcome, Leslie, and we'll turn it over to you.
Great. Thanks, Connor. I'll jump into my presentation slides in just a minute. There's a number of questions that both Connor and Alex asked that I covered. So I'm going to be covering a little bit on the production side of raising meat goats. Some of that has kind of filters in and has some connections to direct marketing. And then focusing on the direct marketing that's unique to goat meat, and then also like how we've evolved, or my farm's evolved in terms of direct marketing. So some of this I'm kind of used to like raising goats and looking at the lens of everybody else's species of livestock and putting on goat glasses. But I think there's a lot of takeaways. Hopefully you can take that you can take away even if you're not in the goat space per se. But if I don't touch on some things, or you have more questions about just logistically of what I'm doing with direct marketing, I'd be happy to kind of dive into more of that in the Q&A after. So, all right, I am going to open up my PowerPoint, and just a heads up, my husband is graciously doing solo parent duty with my two-year-old and 7-year-old. And just before we went on, my 2-year-old was screaming. So hopefully we don't have any interruptions, but I'm sure a lot of you don't know anything about that with COVID and virtual meetings and distractions. So, but we'll do my best here. Okay, so let me go into share screen. All right, can you guys see my screen? Okay.
Not yet. There we go.
Yep.
Got it.
Okay, perfect. All right, so my farm is Cylon Rolling Acres, and we are in western Wisconsin, so we're about an hour east of Minneapolis, St. Paul. If you're familiar with Wisconsin, we're about then an hour west of Eau Claire. I raise goats on pasture for meat, and predominantly the breed that I raise is a cross of boar goats and Kiko goats. And so, if you are familiar at all with meat goats, the boar goat is what you might see more commonly at the fair. It's a white goat with a red head. They're kind of like the Angus of the meat goats, which is kind of funny to bring in beef terminology. But then we've also incorporated Kiko into our herd because we're using rotational grazing practices and raising our animals in a forage-based system. And Kikos are a pretty hardy breed that do well in a forage-based environment. And so that's how we've started to incorporate that into our herd. Our herd, we have about 40 head of breeding stock right now. I'm continuing to grow that to be about 60 to 70 head. It's taken some time, and I'll talk about that in the next slide to get there. I thought I would be there sooner, but there's some reasons for that. And then we have about 20 acres of permanent pasture, and then also our grazing we're just starting to the process of grazing within our woods to give our pasture a break, but also utilizing more of the acreage on our farm because we have a lot more acres than just those 20 acres. Our goat meat, we direct market all of our goats to individual customers or regional wholesale buyers. And our regional wholesale buyers are a mix of food co-ops, retailers, some farm to table restaurant, and we're starting to grow a little bit in that area, but we've been pretty strategic in that. Ironically, most people think some of our market is right in the Twin Cities, which is true as part of our market, but where we've really seen growth is actually in western Wisconsin in that area. I think sometimes that kind of surprises people, but it's a good thing because it's part of our community. A little bit about my background. I didn't grow up on a farm, but I grew up in northeastern Wisconsin. In high school, I remember my senior year of high school, I wanted to take a art class, but I didn't want to take ceramics. So instead, because that was the only class I could sign up for, I took a horticulture class, and then the gateway flood opened in terms of my exposure to agriculture. And that kind of became a part of who I am and what I wanted to study in college, and expanded into the work that I'm doing today. So I worked kind of on the business side of agriculture after I graduated college, but then have worked in a variety of career paths. But the last about 10 years ago, my husband and I purchased our land, and that started the groundwork of starting the farm itself that I run on my own. He's kind of like the weekend evening vacation farmer. I kind of tease him. He helps me with herd health days and making hay, but most of the farm work is all done by me, and as well as the marketing. But our farm really starts with it's focused on being a grazer and caring for our soil and our land, and everything else comes after that. And really, our aim is to farm with nature and not work against it. And so that's really kind of our philosophy with how we're farming. Okay, so now kind of jumping into some of the challenges of raising meat goats. So with goats themselves, there's not really a secret to raising goats, but they're definitely unique species of life. They've got their idiosyncrasies. They're, they're ruminants. They're still pretty different from cattle. They're similar to sheep in some regards. They can have more parasite issues. So how you manage them and genetics can play a role into that. Kidding season, if anybody on here also has sheep, you're probably familiar with lambing season. It can be pretty intense because it kind of all happens at once. But it can be pretty rewarding too with those little critters once they're out of the womb and running around. Goats really need good fencing, and that I don't know how many people I've talked to that said, oh, you have goats, and then they go and do a story about they knew somebody who had goats that got out and so forth. So good fencing is really critical. And we use portable electric fencing in our pastures, and that requires good training. You can't just let them out and hope it works. But when we have good perimeter fencing, I won't get into that as much just because I know the focus of this is on marketing. One of the other challenges that's really been unique with raising goats is that it's there's a lot less goat resources out there in general compared to other species of livestock. So when you look at, compared to cattle, to sheep, just general resources in general. So there's less university research, less R&D from business and industry, from feed companies, animal health companies. Our veterinarians have a little bit of knowledge. I kind of take what I can get from our vet. He's a great resource, but he, great tool for us, but he's sometimes asking me just as many questions, or he's reaching out to some of his fellow veterinarian colleagues. And some of the goat products, we've moved to like a different mineral because some of the goat products, for example, that we were looking at just are higher dollar because a lot of companies like to tag goat products as lifestyle products. I'm a commercial farm. I want to run a tight bottom line, or not tight, but I want to have a tight cost to operate. So it's kind of a unique piece. So I'm always looking at how my counterparts and other livestock species are doing things and kind of tweaking it to work with goats. Some other unique things with goats, if you're raising them on pasture in a grazing environment, it's hard to source animals in the upper Midwest. A lot of goats are show animals or 4-H projects, which is fine, but they get a lot of special attention and they're not really cut out for a commercial environment, let alone operating in a grass-based environment. So we really had to grow our herd internally and be pretty aggressive in culling, incorporating more genetics to really help with that rate of gain on pasture, but also that hardiness and parasite resistance. And we've also been kind of working on how we manage our herd to direct market our meat. So goats tend to be seasonal breeders, which means then we have product on a certain time of year. And so I'm working on, and a lot of our customers are interested in whether, they understand that we're seasonal, but they love to have our meat more frequently. So I'm continuing to try to figure out how I can manage my production practices so I can have more consistent supply of meat for my customers more frequently, instead of having, a large amount of time where they don't hear from me or they don't have any product to buy from me. And then when we also harvest at a larger size than what we might traditionally see for trends of selling animals like at the livestock market. So for example, in our area where we had traditionally sold, which is a decent market in central livestock in Zumbrota, Minnesota, it might be like somewhere between 50 to 70 pounds on live weight. We're raising our animals to 80 to 90 pounds live weight. Part of it, which kind of goes into I'll get into the direct marketing challenges, is that it's really expensive to harvest, or for goat processing and harvesting them. Per head or per pound of meat. So so I'm trying to spread out the cost to get that goat processed. And also people, even if they compare goat to cuts of meat to like lamb, there's still a market. Goat is still considerably smaller compared to a lamb. And then of course you compare that to other proteins. And so, people are just used to larger cuts of meat. So I'm looking at how I can get more mileage and also increase like the expectation of what our customers are getting. So that's something that we've changed. And then, so in terms of marketing goat meat, I'll kind of step back a little bit more in a broader scheme of things. There's a lot of opportunity with goats, but I've learned that it's not like an easy, I think it's probably true with all farming, but it's not easy, just jump in and get rolling. Quick, rich, of course, I don't think anybody can get quick and rich with farming. You can work hard, to build your business to be productive and so forth. But, so one of the, big things with opportunity is that if you can find goat meat in the grocery store, usually, which it can be hard to find, most of the time it's imported from Australia. And that Australian meat is, it's frozen imported meat. Most of that meat is actually feral goats, so wild goats from the mountainside, and it's cheap. So when you're marketing, so that can be a plus. You have quality meat, but you're also competing with a cheap imported meat. So, we can't be really marketing on price alone just because it costs a lot to raise those animals. Process them. And of course, general other production expenses. Your customer base can be really diverse. From a standpoint, like culturally, a lot of people think of goat meat as a cultural protein, which is true, but really just about all cultures, with the exception of, I'm being very generalizing, if you're Anglo white background, goat meat tends to be more popular, more of a norm, or folks are more aware of it, which means it's like a large piece of the population, with the exception of maybe people who, look like me. I'm just going to put myself out there. So it's, you can't, and kind of like Kristen was saying, you can't market to everyone, and there are so many different segments within that customer base. So you really have to figure out what makes sense if you're going to go into this market of what market you're going to serve, and focus in on that, because it can get really distracting to try to meet customers in different places. And if you are still targeting one area, you may still have some of those other customers come to you, but you just got to figure out where you focus your time on it. Let's see here. So I know a lot of people talked about being in marketing meat. I think this is true, and obviously translates whether it's goat meat or not, but make sure your licensing requirements. It really varies, by your state and by your local health inspectors. So I would, your extension agent might be a good place to start with, or a state meat inspector, to know what licensing you need to have. So just know that if you are going to planning to be selling meat beyond, let's say, working with a butcher shop, or that you hand things off to them for like halves or wholes, there are licensing requirements you need to have taken care of. And I can get into that a little bit more as an example of what we have, if there's questions on that. But I know people are from a lot of different states, so I won't dive into that a lot deeper. On the processing side of things, so I talked a little bit about how we're harvesting goats at a larger size. They're still under a year of age, so that's kind of like our parameter for age. So one area of opportunity that we've learned about is, or I've kind of fell into, is marketing and selling primals to our wholesale customers. And so if you're not familiar with a primal, it's a whole carcass, and it can be halved or quartered, or it can just be the whole carcass. So basically, it's once it's at the, it's killed, it's skinned, they hang it, and then it's ready to go. It's kind of before the butcher starts to do cuts. And so for us, the cost, there's a considerable difference in, the processing costs for that. And a lot of our wholesale customers want to do the cuts themselves. And so that has been a great opportunity for us to still make decent margins on a wholesale accounts. But the challenge is how I get that carcass to my customer, because the first time we did that, we had the largest marine grade coolers because we want to maintain the cold chain. We're putting the frozen goat carcass in the cooler. There's legs sticking out. I'm glad it was January because it didn't really work well. But I learned a lot. So we had to do some just-in-time deliveries with that model. And one of our customers was close enough to our butcher where they picked up. But now we've have acquired a refrigerated trailer that we can drop the temps low enough where we can keep meat frozen, or we can use it as a refrigeration unit where we can easily deliver and safely deliver those carcasses. We also use it for picking up cuts of meat from our butcher. And then more recently, we also put in a walk-in freezer, which again, the carcass, whole goat, we used to have one of those large, deep freezer chests like everybody's grandma and grandpa had in their basement. I mean, it held a massive amount of stuff, but it fills up pretty quick when you have a whole carcass of a goat. So those are some pieces that we've been just starting to work through now that I think can present some opportunity for us to move more goats in addition to our direct market. All right, so my evolution of our marketing, we started off much like, I think the conversation some other people have been talking about in the beginning. As I got started with my herd, I was selling our animals to the livestock market and retaining a lot of our female stock for breeding animals. We started getting into selling whole animals in partnership with the butcher. And then partway through, we were a member of a food hub cooperative that direct marketed our products along with other farmers in the area into the Twin Cities, and kind of took care of the logistics and marketing, and that worked well. But unfortunately, they stopped doing business, which kind of forced us to decide to start getting into selling cuts. And I'm really glad we did that because it opened up a whole new door of opportunities. A lot more people are interested in buying cuts of meat than just even a whole goat, which gives the yield about 20 to 30 pounds of meat, still is intimidating to people, which you kind of chuckle depending, on your background. I'm kind of a deal, personally, when I buy my food, I like to buy in bulk and get deals, but not everybody, is into that or has the space for that, or it's intimidating. It's fine. And so we've really shifted our market into getting into more of cuts and bundles. We will be continuing to offer some whole goat options. And then the last few years, we've really shifted into digital marketing with emphasis on our email and our website, and really focus on social media as being supplemental. And so everything that I share is related to social media usually ties back to our website or our email list, and kind of use the 80-20 rule of like 80% relationship building, entertainment, fun, and then a little bit of selling, because once we continue to build those relationships, our customers, folks want to be a part of what we're doing. A lot of our marketing is really focused on education, relationship building. So kind of what Kristen had talked about, I do a lot on recipe development, cooking techniques, and a lot of this I'm learning on my own. I'm learning too. I realized at first I was a little intimidated about trying to share cooking process with goat meat because I didn't grow up eating it, but I learned pretty quick that talking to different customers that they may have had goat meat growing up, but like they still don't feel, there's a lot of customers that don't feel comfortable, or they're cooking it themselves, or they want more guidance. And so I've found some resources to help educate my customer. And that's really been helpful. And so most recently, as they've kind of brought up, I've also added shipping as a delivery option, and we've added an e-commerce platform to make it easy for customers to purchase from me. And then some of these, I'm just going to move all your faces over. Can I do that? Because you're on top of my slide. I should know what I have here, but so a few things I wish I would have done sooner. So that was one of the questions. So I kind of touched on this a little bit, selling cuts of meat. I wish, and of course, this is maybe a little bit different now because I recognize that it's harder to get into meat lockers or meat plants now, but I wish we would have started doing that sooner and not be afraid to have that meat in storage. But I decided we were kind of in a place where we needed to do a quick shift on our distribution model. And it really wasn't, people were interested in that. And for us, I needed to have, I actually use this may vary on your state or your local requirements, but in our shop where we have my sales, freezer was to start with, I actually used the little side door freezer to store our meat. It wasn't anything fancy, but it was licensed and it was dedicated to our meat. And again, everything depends on your licensing. But I figured if we didn't sell it, we would eat it as a family, but we sold almost everything. So, you know, I wish we would have started focusing on our email list and doing regular communication earlier, even when I didn't have as much to sell, more just as a relationship building process. E-commerce. So we just added an e-commerce portion to our website, and I'll talk a little bit about that next. But before that, I was using a form on my website, and you know, there's different stages in how you can get there. And the form, I'd even recommend something that is just to start with to help generate like initial lead handoff or placing an order. I'd say maybe a little sooner, I should have used at least the sales platform built into my website provider. But you know, we made the move now, and it's really helped a lot. I think some of, you know, this spring when we implemented it, I think some of it had to do with COVID and people were interested in buying direct, but honestly, with a specialty product, I think we were just easier to access and easier to do business with. And I think that had more to do with it than the environment at hand. And get in front of the camera with marketing and social media, you know, and make yourself part of the brand. Websites, email, social. I do not like being in the picture on the screen or videos, but if any of you follow me on social media, I'm on there a lot. But honestly, like anytime I'm in there and it's about me and I have the picture, you know, I'm in the face of it, people love hearing my story and seeing me. And so I think this is, you know, there was a question before about how you differentiate yourself and without maybe bringing down other your competitors or peers. I think, you know, just keep telling your story and put yourself out there, because that's going to be enough to differentiate yourself without feeling like you're putting somebody else down. And of course, learn how to cook. Learn how to cook your product and just educate, and share recipes. People love instant pot recipes. I need to do more of that. I have one post on Instagram that kind of went crazy. I'm like, it's just an Instant Pot recipe. Let's see here. Then let me go. Now I have to move your faces out of the way so I can go to the next slide. So the last slide that I have then is, let's see here. Okay, why Graze Cart? So we chose, Graze Cart is our e-commerce platform that we chose. And there's a lot of options out there in the market now for doing e-commerce. There's some that are very farmer specific, and then others that are much more broad, like Kristen had mentioned. I know Shopify is pretty popular. So we chose Graze Cart. So the big reason why I chose an e-commerce platform, and I would recommend this to folks if you're thinking about it, is to make it easier for customers to buy from me. So I used to do marketing. I hate when people use caps, but I feel like this is the only time that's appropriate for it. As farmers, it's really easy for us to want to watch our bottom line, not spend extra money on things, and try to figure out how we can, you don't want to go crazy spending money, but I think having some type of investment in some type of e-commerce platform is really valuable, because we're sending, if you think about, we can't be Amazon, but we can learn a lot from them. And so, anything we can do to make it easy, instead of sending them to, my original email, send me an email of what you're interested. Then I email them back about, okay, are you sure this is the cuts you want? Okay, now we're going to coordinate, on pickup times. Then we're going to talk about pricing. And if you can streamline that, it's going to make it a lot easier, and in terms of that transactional experience. Part of the reason I chose it is made for and by farmers. I really like that you can sell product by the pound. We also sell some of our products by a package. Some of our more uniform packages or products is by a flat price. I really like the price tiers. So there's options for local pickup, shipping zone. So I can set it by, depending on which geographical area folks are from, like how they get their order, how their shipping is priced out. I can set up wholesale pricing. This is a piece I'm going to add in this next year, because I'm paying for this service. I want to make sure I get most of the use out of it as I can. There's pickup schedules, shipping schedules. On the back end, there's a lot of efficiencies. And this can be true of other e-commerce platforms. So I would say, these are some things maybe even to look for if you're evaluating what makes sense for you. I really like that I can, in terms of like packing slips for pulling orders, inventory management. Yes. Okay. So this one is a little bit pricier, but I look at this as an investment once a month. cost for efficiency in my own time. And I also don't need to hire somebody. So if I hire somebody out to help me with some farm work or doing marketing for me or packing orders, I'm going to pay a lot more than $124 a month for them to be working for me, just as an example. You know, and we're like, I kind of call ourselves like in the teenage years of direct marketing. So we have enough product to move. In a couple of years, once my herd's the size where I want to be at, a lot of our young stock that we've been retaining will now, you know, kind of expand even more in terms of what I have for meat. And so I really, for me, my philosophy right now for implementing too, in addition to streamlining, is it's a little bit of the egg before, you know, chicken before the egg piece, but also I want to have a good idea that our e-commerce platform is working well before I really need to depend on it and move more product. So the last piece, my mouse is being a little goofy. So if you want to learn more, because I kind of had to jam a lot of stuff in here, but we'll get to questions or let you know, the LSP staff kind of share or ask me the questions. But if you want to take a look at presentation slides, I've got a lot of great resources on my website for raising goats, but also some marketing things we're doing, technical resources. You can go to this my website with /LSP and you can find information. So, and I just love this picture because this is our guardian dogs. I kind of call them my doulas because Molly was right there cleaning off placenta, licking butts. I'm like, oh, but you know, they're doing their jobs. So little side note. So, but I will close this out. Right, stop. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Leslie.
Yes.
Same, we're going to approach this Q&A the same way we did before. You can type stack into the chat box if you'd like to be called on to ask your question verbally, or you can just type out your question and Connor and I will lift them up. We already had a few come through. A couple of them are just clarifying questions. How many goats do you sell per year?
Mm-hmm. All right, so I have to think about that. Okay, so did I do last year too? So this last year and this year now, I've also I think on the one slide I talked about the feeder model doesn't really work that well for if you're buying young stock, just the economics don't work out for the per head value. We are doing a little bit of feeder supplementing with our current herd right now. So I'm buying some young stock from a couple other farmers who farm similar practices to us and selling them in addition. So I've got to think about that now. So I would say probably last year we were selling, I should know this, but I kind of think about how many kids we have. That's what young goats. So if not everybody's in the goat world and thinks about when I talk about kids. So I would say this last year I probably sold about somewhere between 40 to 50 goats. You know, and so and I'm retaining all our female stock as well. So
and then
it's probably going to be a little bit more than that. So
I think I heard you say you bring them into the butcher, but someone, just in case, are you harvesting any of your own goats or sending them all to the processor?
Okay. Yeah. So all of ours go to the processor. We do sell some. So a couple of our, most of our wholesale customers want us to coordinate the processing. We have one that will buy live goats from us and it goes to their processor of choice. We have in the past sold goats live for do-it-yourself butchering on the farm, which is actually more common with sheep and lamb, or no, sorry, I did it back. Goats and lamb. So if you aren't in those species, sometimes that kind of throws people off. We've done a little bit of that, but we're getting out of that. That's kind of why I talked about streamlining what you do. So a lot of people, if they're sourcing goat, they're used to going to the farm and getting a goat. We're trying to target a market that wants goat, but doesn't want to have to go through the work of hunting down a farmer. I mean, they can hunt me down on Facebook, but online, but they don't need to, go another step further. So.
Okay. I'm gonna call on Quentin here to unmute.
Yeah, the regulations in Wisconsin might be different than they are here in Minnesota, but selling cuts is very difficult here. How are you doing that in Wisconsin?
Yep. So I'll kind of go through how we're doing it, and then I might give you some ideas of maybe how to explore with that. So because we're selling, well, part of it is because we're close to the Minnesota state line, but then now because we're also shipping meat, our meat is USDA inspected. So we have everything has to be inspected. If we were just selling within state lines, it would have to be state inspected. I would assume that would be the same for Minnesota. Yeah. So I have to have, let's see here, a license for on-farm storage for our meat. I have to have an inspected freezer, and that would be true even before we had the walk-in freezer, even with like our big, the refrigerator freezer I had, or my deep freezer I then transitioned to, that was inspected by our county, but it was a state license, and I had to pay for that annually. We also had to have a wholesale license from the state, so we could just transport the meat from the butcher to our on-farm storage.
It's all USDA inspected then too.
Yes, USDA inspected. There is a program, and I don't know about Minnesota, but there is a program in Wisconsin where there's a special like inspection process that you can sell it over state lines. It's a special program. I might work with another butcher in our area just because they're closer to whole goats that way, because I don't have to drive an hour away. But so I would imagine that there's probably some similar licensing, it's probably going to be different, but there's probably some of those things. So I think looking at like talking to maybe your county health department or within the Department of Ag. Yeah, another resource too, even for selling cuts within your state, if there's any farmers markets or like the Department of Ag, if there's any staff that work with farmers markets, they might be able to help you navigate what you need for licensing too, just because I know if you're selling at the farmers markets, you need to be licensed.
So the key then is USDA inspection and then an inspected freezer for you guys. And then
I would imagine that that's pretty universal. It just depends on by state. It just depends on who does the administration of that. And even like our county has some weird regulations I'm not a big fan of, but like even sometimes your counties can do things different for your townships. But
thank you.
Yep.
Great. Rochelle, if you want to unmute and ask your question.
Yeah, my video is not working for some odd reason. I don't know. Anyways, so we have 80 nannies right now, and all of our kids just go to the local sales barn, and we're pasture raised. How do you teach your customers? I mean, a lot of ethnic people have reached out to us, want to do like the on-farm slaughter, which we really haven't gotten into. How do you teach your customers like the value of goat meat? A lot of we're very rural Minnesota, very southeast corner, so goat meat is not very popular here at all. So we're just trying to find a good target market for it and how to teach, value. And our goat meat's different. It's 100% pasture raised. We feed no grain, no hormones, but everyone's like, "Ugh, goat meat, is it even good?" I mean, people just think it's weird.
Yeah, no, those are good questions. And, I'd say we probably have pretty similar product too, in that regard. So recognize like we're probably, a little bit, more unique, like a good study in terms of being close to the Twin Cities. But what's I found interesting is like, we still had like, there's more interest, I think, probably in your community than you might think. So like, as I've gotten started, I have done, looked for ways that I can meet other people in our community and like talk about what I'm doing. Sometimes I feel like people might not want to hear that I raise goats because I talk about it all the time, but you never know who might know somebody who is married to somebody who, is really interested in goat meat, or, there's just a lot of connections. And I mean, just as an example, I did a goat education program with our library. And then she said, well, can we do it with a senior center? And I was like, okay, fine. Everybody in the senior center in Little Deer Park, Wisconsin, had heard of goat meat, and a lot of them had tried it. I would have never it's just, I think, you know, if you can get out in the community and meet people, talk about what you're doing. I've joined the Chamber of Commerce this last year in our local community. You know, between my kids and then COVID hitting, I haven't been a lot involved in a lot. I have really little kids, so between those two things, I haven't been able to do a lot of in-person stuff, but I'm hoping some of that'll change. We also have a farm to table style restaurant that's in a neighboring community that we've partnered with. And it's been really great. They carry our meat seasonally in some retail products. And so we've been able to really leverage a partnership with them. So I talk a lot about what they do, and they really appreciate that. So they talk a lot about what we do. And that's really helped kind of educate my community and try out our meat too. And some of those people have then now started to become customers with us. But then it's also part of, you know, a little bit, so I'm continuing to work on doing that, but it's also part of the reason we also started getting into shipping our meat too, just because it is a specialty product, and, you know, being able to broaden our reach a little bit more as well. And, you know, with being a specialty product, I also recognize, like, I don't know if it's worth my time to be like at a farmer's market unless it's like right in my home community, just to build relationships locally. So that's kind of also part of the approach we've taken. But I think a lot of it is, you know, keep looking for ways to find connections. If there's other people in your area who are raising grass-fed meats, see where they're marketing or where they're selling to, because that's also how I've kind of gotten into some places, is followed up with what some of my peers in my, like, you know, extreme local area are doing, and that's helped as well too. I also give samples out to like some, you know, decision makers, you know, like Chamber of Commerce people, restaurants or other retail places. So snack sticks, like some of my gateway goat meat products are like our gyro and snack sticks. My husband calls them not real goat meat products, but it's a different segment of product, but they're really popular. So, you know, it really also embraced, like, the local foods market is actually more of our market than it is cultural. I mean, there's crossover, but that's more of our market.
Yeah, and then how did you kind of like set your prices, being your kind of like us, a premium product, you know, charge, you know,
Yep.
but that goat meat has the competition of the, you know, shipped in from Australia, you know, kind of.
Yeah, it's hard to try to look at that. I try to ignore those prices as much as I can, because you can't even think about trying to compete with that. So I've looked at, when I've set prices, of course you want to look at your cost of production and marketing costs and all those things, but I've taken a look at costs, like comparables with grass-fed lamb, and use that as a benchmark, and then looked at a few of the other people who are doing direct market goat meat, which there's not a lot of us out there, and kind of use that as a benchmark. But, you know, we are going to be pricier than other proteins. I mean, it's just, even when I run the numbers and looking at costs, I mean, that's part of the reason why we're raising our animals to a larger, you know, weights and so forth. It just costs a lot more to raise those animals. So prices are. Mm-hmm.
To piggyback off of that, what do you charge for a whole goat, and do you sell by hanging weight or live weight or package?
Yep. So we do, the only hanging weight that I do now is for our wholesale customers who buy a Primal, where they do their own cut and package. If I do a whole goat, the traditional kind of, you know, you pick what you want for cuts. Our price for that is $12.50 a pound. That includes, and that is like for a set amount of meat that's about 20 or like 25 to 30 pounds of meat, including organ meat and bones. And that is, let's see here. So that's the price on that. And I'm getting to, since I carry cuts of meat, I'm starting to do it where I will just actually pull a whole goat from my freezer. So I have a set amount of, you know, a whole goat will include like X number of packages of chops or weight of that. So it's like I'm kind of, working through my inventory as quantity, if that makes sense, versus, but I'm kind of taking that into mind when I get my goats processed, of what I might have on hand or what I'm going to have in inventory for whole goats. But I'm still kind of working through how we do that. But with our packaged meat, it ranges from I think I think it's like somewhere around $14.50 to like $17 a pound. And we have discounted prices for our local farm pickup versus like what I call retail is what we ship.
So I think you kind of answered this one in as a part of Rochelle's, but just in case you want to add anything to it. How did you build your customer base and how did you get them to your website and signed up for your newsletter?
Mm-hmm.
You talked about kind of all the different people you've reached out to and that sort of thing. But
yeah, so it's been a mix of in-person and digital presence. So like in person, I kind of talked a little bit about that of trying to figure out where, meeting people in our community, so people know who the goat person is, the goat lady is, hopefully in that the crazy goat lady, and also knowing where the foodies are at, where my peers who are direct marketing grass-fed meats, where are they selling their meats, who are they working with, and then from a social like digital platform standpoint, I'm trying to always, like with my posts and my engagement, like always try to like add value or tell a story about what's happening. And so, but then within that, I'll sometimes do asks on, if you want, asks for joining our email list. And I don't do it a lot, but I try to be strategic when I do it. So that way I'm not always blasting sales information at them. When I meet with people in person, if I meet people in person, they express interest, I pull up my phone and say, can I add you to my email list? I don't, I only do once a month, and I get them put into my email list right away. I have it bookmarked on my phone, the little email opt-in form. I think also like with social, people, I think there were some questions about posting and everything like that. So I try to do relevant content a couple times a month on my blog, and then I will reference back to that from my email. Like I'll link to some of those stories, blog posts in my emails, and then also use it in social. And on all my blog posts, I will also reference like how to join our email list. So I'm always, and I've got, like Kristen talked about, even in my my email like signature line, I have links to how to join my email list. So I'm really trying to always put it out there. If somebody contacts me through Facebook or Instagram, I try to ask about buying meat. I try to get them, or they ask me about product availability, I try to get their email and get them on their list right away. I also keep a spreadsheet of special requests too, so I don't miss those. But anytime I can, I try to convert people to my email list. And try not to sound like I'm always doing it, like the email list peddler, but I try to do that.
Dana had that question earlier, where you source your packaging and what sort of radius actually pencils out for you?
Yeah, so a lot of the shipping I'll kind of give some general like framework of how it worked. And a lot of the shipping expertise I've leaned on or gleaned on is from the farm. If she's kind of Instagram famous, Five Mary's Farms out of Northern California. She's really worked on developing a pretty awesome direct marketing model of sales for their meats. And so she has an online marketing and business class. And so I had joined that just because I was really interested in learning how to ship perishables. So a lot of the resources I've taken, put into place have been through her guidance. But a lot of the big concepts are you want to have packaging that will be able to maintain like the highest insulation value possible, and then maintain or is built to at least like withstand for 48 hours. And then we also use dry ice. I had been using ice packs, but dry ice really helps maintain that frozen meat product for a long time. If you're doing more of a regional shipping model, ice packs might work, especially if it's in winter months. We are shipping, it's called like nationwide. So I just built out a map. You can look at it on my website. I went through we're using UPS because we have a hub in our area. And it just seems like UPS is more reliable than FedEx, but right now we're kind of on a shipping hold because we don't have product, but also the holidays, things are crazy right now with shipping. But we just built out based on like cost, by UPS's shipping ground model. And so we try to use ground shipping as much as possible, because really if you can get a frozen product to somebody with the right packaging and dry ice within 2 days, it should still be like within 48 hours, it still should be in good shape, or frozen, ready, and it's the way that you want it to get there. And so we try to use ground shipping as much as possible. And then our radius beyond that then jumps up to a higher price point, for like a higher shipping. I've looked at, and I haven't done this, but this might be some suggestions if you're thinking about like a shipping model too. There are some great regional carriers. I've even thought about, initially I was going to look at speedy delivery, and some of you are from the Midwest. They do, I know whenever I order stuff from like Premier One out of Iowa, I get stuff like the next day. It's like pretty awesome. So, if I was kind of anticipating like this spring, if we start to have problems with shipping, that we may look at maybe focusing on more regional delivery and utilize something like Speedy. But there's some examples that way. And also like so ground is going to be cheaper for shipping. You can get some deal, like there are some shipping services out there where you can get discounts for like overnight services and things like that. So, but we have a little bit of the shipping expense built into our product, but we ask for our customers to pay for more of that. Right now it's a little bit discounted just because I want to keep building customers. So there's my blab on that.
Awesome. And then there was a question, can you cover your take on John's? I think I'm pronouncing that. Hard to find John's free stock. Do you test for it or worry about it?
Yoni's.
Yoni's. All right. Sorry. Thanks, Dana.
Yeah. So I may be kind of, I don't know. So as a meat producer, we don't do any testing for any of the maybe common, some of those common diseases that maybe it might be more common with like dairy herds to test. I know there are some herds that folks who raise meat goats that do some of that testing, but I just haven't seen any, we haven't had any issues, or at least that I know of, or at least our veterinarian has indicated that it's really worth the cost and time for us to be doing that testing. So, but I know in dairy goats, that's a whole different, that's more of a concern. But for us, it hasn't been anything we've done. I mean, some people might think I'm kind of strange, but I've even started to wonder if it's worth even doing some of the vaccinations, at least with maybe some of our market goats that are going to be off the farm in a year, because I don't know if they need it. But I'm not there yet, but.
And Rochelle lifted up that they don't do any testing or vaccines either.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that, Rochelle. I'll have to connect with you later. I'm curious to learn about what you're doing too. I know sometimes I think about bringing that up in some of the goat groups online, and then I don't want people to go bonkers on me, but I'm.
Yeah, you don't want to tell many goat people about that, or they think you're crazy.
Yeah. I'm like, I want to still treat my goats well, but I'm also really concerned about the bottom line too. Like the mix of animal welfare and like, there's barely any room for margin with goats as it is. So.
Nope. They have a very high mortality rate. We learned that the hard way, but it's all right.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions that people want to lift up or that I somehow missed? Feel free to unmute or drop them in the chat.
I'm just going to look at the notes I was taking when you guys were asking questions in Kristen's presentation. So I've kind of covered the concepts of it, and it's still on my list of books to finish reading for this year, but Story Brand by Donald Miller is a really good marketing book I'd recommend, or at least if you scan his concepts. And then I use Trello to keep track of like all my social posts, my random ideas for the farm. It's kind of like I don't know what you call it. It's an app that where you could have like categorize ideas and keep track of things. I think it's actually probably a productivity program, but I just use it to keep track of stuff like that. Somebody asked about favorite goat recipe. Oh, Dana asked that. So I really like making curries and goat tacos. What else? I've got a lot of recipes on my website, and then there's on the link I sent, or the link I have, I've got there's like a page I have of like my favorite goat things. There's a goat cookbook that's like well, there's very few goat meat cookbooks, but it's kind of been my guide. It's called Goat Cooking and Eating. I'd highly recommend that. And then if any of you are interested in like the learning more about cuts of meat, and this just doesn't apply to, the butchery side of things. This doesn't apply to just goats, but I've got the book listed on my website too. Adam Danforth has a couple of really good butchery or not cookbooks, but guides. One is strictly on beef and the other one's on all other forms of protein. And it's been a great resource for me to understand cuts of meat, how I communicate things to my butcher, if some of our customers have special requests. And actually, Kristen's presentation kind of helped me think about, I might start talking about sharing with my customers more about explaining cuts of meat. Using that guide. So. Yeah.
Well, if we can just by clapping your hands on the reactions or unmuting and just saying thank you, dropping something in the chat. I hope we can show Leslie how much we appreciate just the time and the experiences she's shared with us in the lessons. Thank you so much. And I wanted to give Kristen an opportunity to address one more question that she didn't get to, but wanted to make sure she answered, and then we'll plan on wrapping up for the evening. So go ahead, Kristen.
Hey, sorry to jump back on. I did forget, Kate or Katie had a really good question about standardizing and streamlining messaging. And that was something I wanted to touch on, and I just forgot. There's a couple of tools that I think are really useful. One is called Canva, and it helps you create really attractive, professional looking posts. You can use your colors, your branding, choose a style, and if you use that repeatedly, your branding will look always the same. People will know it's you when your post comes across their feed without even looking at it. And that's really, really valuable. So Canva is one option. There is a paid portion of it, but you can do quite a bit with the free version. The other option is creating your own templates, or like with anyone who gets a logo done with me, I include it in their package because I just think they're so valuable to have your own templates for Instagram, Facebook, and stories for each one that has your branding on it. And all you have to do is use a photo app like Snapseed or something to add text over the top of it. That way it always looks the same. You can use it in your brand colors and just make that look really nice and easy. So I hope that is helpful to Kate or Katie, sorry, whichever it is. And those were my two suggestions I wanted to add. So thanks.